Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery, IIMFL Smart Money Alliance. It is a beautiful Monday morning, February 22nd, 2021. We're actually at 8 o'clock Central on the dot. Normally we start about a minute earlier, and I'm excited to visit with you. We get together most weekday mornings at this time, 8 a.m. Central or a minute or so before, with our distribution partners. There are three primary types of distribution partners. We have affiliates. Who wouldn't want to be an affiliate? It's free and easy. We have credit literacy educators who are involved with, to no surprise, educating on credit and referring folks into the Credit Boost program. Our credit literacy educators average about $9,000 a month by referring in one client a day, no sales involved. And then we have the cream of the crop, the joint venture partners. And that's really who we spend most of our time talking to, supporting, and training our joint venture partners. And that's important because they're actually working with clients. The other two roles, the affiliates and educators, while valuable, certainly, they're not involved with the client interaction, the client implementation. So we need to make sure that we use these morning sessions in a very focused and productive way to make sure that we're supporting our joint venture partners who are interfacing with the clients. So with that being said, we have a number of topics to work through today, kind of a hodgepodge, again, of reflective of topics and issues that have arisen over the past few days. All right, so number one, we are now current. So all clients from last week and the Access to Capital client have been onboarded. Their live plans have been set up. They've been assigned mentors. They're plugged in. So the clients that you picked up are your cohort you're ready to implement. Keep in mind that we're forwarding you an executed copy of their agreement if you're assigned as their mentor. And you could be a mentor for someone one of two different ways. Either you originated the client or you're being assigned an orphan client. I had at least one of you say, I don't have any information on these people you're assigning. I don't know what to do. Well, we're emailing, and it could be that we've made a mistake, but probably not. So as we execute each agreement, we assign a mentor and we forward that executed agreement to the assigned mentor. And so if you're not seeing that, check your email, check your folders, check your filters. But there's about a 99.9% chance that we have forwarded you not only like their name and number, but their profile, so you are ready to go. So excited to see so many of you get involved as being mentors and working both with those clients that you've developed as well as others. And I think it's going to be a great week for a lot of you. It's a lot of fun to work with these clients. As we mentioned, and Bernard's a great example of this, one of our JV partners, if you reach out to that client a couple times and they don't engage, please let us know. Let us know, and I'll make a note of that here. So if after multiple attempts to connect with assigned client, which means when you're mentoring, if after multiple attempts they don't respond, email support@iimfl.org to alert of the issue. Now, these people have obviously contracted with us. We have an executed agreement with them. They said they wanted to do access to capital. We've onboarded them. If you're assigned a client, you should try at least two different modes of communication. I wouldn't rely just on email. You could use email, phone, text, or any combination. But if they don't respond, you need to let us know, because then they're going to go over to the compliance department. The compliance department's going to say, what's up? You contracted, we're now on the hook to help you raise at least $100,000, and you're not engaged. Because, and I'm just skipping down here to the second to last bullet, the goal of the compliance department is not to make clients' lives miserable or uncomfortable. It's to say, what's the problem? What do we need to do different to get you engaged, to keep you compliant? Sometimes people go into the compliance department because they haven't paid their bills. Well, we all can understand how to resolve that. They need to pay their bills, which allows us to get you paid. In other cases, it's they're not engaged. They're not actively participating. And if they don't actively participate, I mean, we can't force a client to actively participate, but if they don't, then they're in breach of the agreement, and then the compliance department will resolve that. So the good news, well, the bad news is we fell a little behind. Normally we try to get all those new clients processed by Sunday. It rolled over until today, Monday, but they're all assigned. So all of you that have said that you wanted to be a mentor for clients, you should find that you are a mentor many times over. We only had one issue, and Michael, if you're on the line, we had email deliverability issues with you. So you were not assigned any clients this week. We've got to get your email deliverability resolved, and then you'll be back plugged in next week. We need more mentors. So if you know anyone that might want to mentor clients, you can refer them in. There's highlighted yellow at the bottom of the page. We can plug them in and they can mentor their clients, plus help with this influx of orphan clients. We are in the process, and I'll add that as a second sub-bullet here. We are progressing with the new IT solution for onboarding clients. So I don't have a specific live date yet. Certainly the goal is in the month of March. We're working with the IT people. And what that's going to mean is that clients will be able to agree to terms and conditions online. Will no longer have that lag waiting for DocuSign to go out to them, and also allow for better feedback to the referral source. So that is a big commitment of ours. It's a big financial obligation to build that new IT solution, which is fine. So that is in process. Are there any questions on this first bullet here that anyone has? Again, we use Q&A within Zoom. It's like a chat box. Any questions on that? If you didn't get any clients, but you thought you were ready to mentor, again, email us in and let us know, because maybe you weren't on the list. Everyone got clients that I know of except for Michael. And again, with Michael, we had an issue with email deliverability. Dion's got a great question. How many times to reach out to them before handing them off? Well, I know each of you may have a different threshold. Bernard's reaching out to them 4 times, which I think is above and beyond. I would say 2 to 3 times. It's just, it needs to be different ways of trying to communicate with them. Now, our system is going to continue to send them a lesson every 7 days. They're going to progress through the curriculum, but it's a real shame that they don't take advantage of you being their mentor and assisting them. And then, of course, the mentors are writing the key person policies, which we're going to get to in a moment. So it's unlikely that they're going to have as good of an experience if they're not working with their mentor. But I think the answer to the question is 2 to 3 times. And yes, Robert, I understand. All of us face this. Well, clients that sign up and then we go to implement, and there's invariably some that just don't engage. And so that's not your burden. Frankly, it's not my burden. They'll go to compliance, and if they want to terminate the agreement, they can, if they, with a fee. If they want to actively participate, which is the goal, then the compliance department can get them plugged in. Okay. Second bullet, unrelated to the first. We're on to a new bullet. New bullet. So in terms of access to capital, we've said this before, but I just want to clarify it. People can enroll in access to capital regardless of their credit scores. There's no minimum credit score, no minimum time in business, and it's fine if they don't have an entity formed yet. So they could be pre-launch, pre-revenue, they just have an idea, but they want to benefit from the 3 things that they get from access to capital. What are those 3 things? Improve financial literacy, a loan package, and access to capital, right? Those are three, and they're intertwined, I understand, but it is fine for a client to come to us. I was working with clients over the weekend, and one of the clients says, well, do I need to go form an LLC to get funding? No, you don't. There are some sources of funding that don't care at all if you have an LLC or a C Corp or S Corp. And so just keep in mind that we don't want to create unnecessary barriers to clients enrolling into access to capital. We want to cast as wide of a net as possible and attract those individuals that want those three benefits, right? Guaranteed $100,000 capital raise. There's no minimum time in business, no minimum credit scores. Okay, so there's bullet 2. That's nothing new, just clarifying, because some of you I feel, are sometimes trying to add filters to this, and I don't think that's consistent with our mission. We are excited that we are at 100% funding for clients now in the first 30 days, as long as they're engaged. So let's dig into that. So what we do now is week 2, you're going to work with them if you're the mentor and helping them complete their personal financial statement and prompting them to complete their soft credit pull. Typically, they're going to send you their completed PFS so you can review. Well, that's great for you to do kind of a needs analysis on as you're preparing to write their key person policy in week 3, which we'll get to here in a separate bullet. And then normally you would submit that PFS in, but it's fine if they submit it directly into us. It really doesn't matter. But the point is, once we have a completed PFS and a soft credit pull, then we know that it's time for them to go to funding, their first round of funding, or what we call FTF, first tranche financing. And so we are at, this past week, we're at 100% of clients getting funded. Now, how much do they get funded? It varies. We had a success story earlier in the week, and we were talking about the gentleman that got 40 or 50,000, whatever that was, and then some people get less. So how much they get for FTF is going to be based upon their credibility, of course. But we do have the safety net that's working really, really well, where worst case scenario, we can get them a 0% loan for the $2,500, guaranteed approval, and then that goes towards the refundable deposit. That allows us to support them, allows us to build their loan package, and it gets you paid. So 100% success. Every once in a while, I get people, and it's like, it's the bizarro world. It's like, oh, your clients never get funded. That is the most ludicrous statement that anyone could say. I don't know if they're delusional or what it is. I don't know. But just so you know, we're at 100% success this past week on getting FTF financing. So all is good there. Any questions so far? Let's stop for a second before we get to business credit building and see if there's any questions. So we answered Dion's question about how many times to follow up. Robert's going to send the list of the folks that he's been assigned that are not engaging. Thank you. And Robert, yeah, you'll work. Let me know if you need more help with the Mutual of Omaha. Remember, everyone, you can write the key person policies wherever you want. We have a preferred relationship with the Mutual of Omaha with guaranteed approval as long as they're below age 70, and it's turning around fast. No medical exam, no medical underwriting, in fact. Robert says he has one fellow that has several businesses. A commercial address is fine. Yes, sir. Jim's asking, is there any reason that we should reject a prospect for access to capital? Well, we do have the 3 requirements. It needs to be a U.S. citizen, needs to be a U.S.-based business. Now, if they're pre-formation, the intent is for it to be formed in the United States, and it has to be legal in nature. If they're doing human trafficking or elder porn or anything that is outside legal nature, then we can't support them on a capital raise. But that's really it. I agree, Robert. Yeah, since we moved to the simplified underwriting, it is so easy to get these people approved for the key person policy. Scott says, if 75% of our clients are subprime, does that translate to 75% of our clients only getting 2,500? Well, you know, we had a client this past week and his credit score, and you're going to think I'm lying to you. And if you told me this, I would call you a liar. His FICO score was an 852, or wasn't, I shouldn't say past tense, is an 852. I honestly didn't know personal credit scores could go to 852. I was floored. And of course, you know, he's getting a nice first round of funding. So not all of our clients are subprime, but I'd agree with you, Scott, that is our niche, helping individuals that have some credibility issues be able to navigate the process to get funded. So, you know, we'll look at different options, and there's some sources of FTF that is not credit based. And so I wouldn't worry too much about that. I mean, it's going to shake through. We're going to help them get as much FTF, first tranche financing, as possible. We had a client, different client than the one I referenced before. He got approved, I'll say pre-approved, for $50,000 for FTF, and he declined it. He says, no, I want 90,000. Well, you don't qualify for 90,000 yet. So, you know, people can be peculiar, but don't worry about how much they're going to get for FTF. The process will flush that out. Scott's asking on the key person policy, which I'm going to table that for a second, since we'll get to that bullet in a second. So I'm going to resume, continue to feed in your questions that you have us. Okay, so on business credit building business credit's where we got started. We were approved for our first 501c3 nonprofit in September of 2016. And the focus at that time was to go out and educate about business credit, that businesses can have their own credit profile, distinct and separate from personal credit, which is a good, healthy thing to do. And you can access capital just under your EIN. Business credit, I think, is poorly understood and underutilized. That is part of the Access to Capital program. It's really about a $2,500 value, and we don't charge extra for that. However, keep in mind that all types of capital raise, whether it be installment, revolving, line of credit, what have you, is subject to the performance fee, which you're paid 3% of. So if we got them 100,000 of business credit, then they would pay a performance fee, and you'd get $3,000 from that. Just to clarify, and that's really why it's on the agenda today, is we will start working with the client. It's our protocol now. Once they've submitted their refundable deposit, then we begin immediately working with them on building out their business credit. So that's the trigger. Business credit is addressed in week 2, module 2. Week 2 is normally where we're gathering the data, especially from the PFS and the soft credit poll, to be able to identify the best source of capital for their FTF. And then once they've paid that refundable deposit, then we proceed with helping them build their business credit profile at no additional charge. So just wanted to clarify that. So business credit's real, it works. I've told you, we've bought multiple company vehicles here at our organization under the EIN that doesn't show on personal credit. So business credit is a good thing, and it's included. Okay, next, key person policies. So the key person policy is part of a well-designed loan package, just like a business plan, just like financial forecasting. And so any of you who are joint venture partners, you either are licensed or not licensed, and it doesn't really matter. But if you're not licensed, or if you are licensed and you don't want to write policies, you need to have someone on your team write those policies. And I'm getting a little bit of pushback from some. Of course, it is illegal, according to state insurance laws, for a licensed insurance agent to split commissions with an unlicensed person. That's not permitted. Just like a real estate agent is not supposed to give an unlicensed real estate agent, a layperson, part of their real estate commissions. Same with legal fees. There's a number of categories of money that you need to have certain licensure or certification to perform the service. And then it's typically illegal for people that have that licensure or certification to share those revenue streams with those that don't. I can't fix that. I guess you can contact your lobbyist if you feel like the state insurance law should change. So you certainly can be creative. You want to be creative to get around that. That's not really our role. But the bottom line is we're just trying to clarify that if you're mentoring a client, then you're helping them go through that 4-week process. And in week 3, which is here, we're training them and instructing them and educating them on why this is relevant. You need to have someone on your team that's going to write these policies. Now, I know at least one of you approached an agent, and the way that you approach the agent is, hey, split it 50-50 with me. And the agent asked, well, are you licensed? And the guy said, no, I'm not licensed. And the agent said, well, I'm not going to split with you. It's illegal. Well, the agent's right. But regardless, if you were a JV partner, that's one of your areas of responsibility is, in addition to walking them through that 4-week sequence, is getting that key person policy written. So I don't think you'll have much difficulty at all recruiting insurance agents, and we've had lessons on that. And then you can use them as part of your distribution partners, because this is a dream come true for most licensed insurance agents. It's a proven, reputable, credible, no upfront cost way for them to work under your JV umbrella and be able to have more policies to write. So they should be part of your business development team. Are there any questions on that? All right, Scott's asking average monthly premium. We don't determine the premium. You do, Scott, right? You're a licensed insurance agent, or you have a licensed insurance agent on your team that's doing a needs analysis and figuring out the suitability of the client. And so maybe it's a skinny little policy. Maybe it's it's an overfunded IUL that's not only helping with their asset protection, but also their wealth accumulation needs. We're not making that decision. And of course, the amount of premium is going to also be impacted by the mortality risk of the individual and the size of the policy. So average monthly premium is determined by the agent, not by us. We strongly recommend, whenever possible, collect the money up front, annual premiums rather than monthly premiums. Lenders prefer it, we prefer it, I'm sure you prefer it. So if at all possible, have them pay annual premium up front, not monthly pay. Thank you, Scott, for those questions on that. You don't submit, Robert's asking how to submit completed KPP applications to us. You don't send them to us. We're not the insurance company. You submit them to the insurance company, and the insurance company does something that's called underwriting, and then they issue the policy, and then they pay you. And it's a beautiful thing, but we're not part of that. Now, you will make sure that the client has the policy to upload in the Dropbox, which happens in week 4. The Dropbox is what we use for like a virtual file cabinet. That's where all the loan package documents go. So we'll be looking for that issued policy in that virtual file cabinet to verify that they have that, but you're not sending the applications to us. Thank you for those questions. And Jim's asking, yeah, so it's just fine for affiliates to write the key person policies on the clients that they generate. Of course, you're a free agent, so you're fine. Jim, you're one of our top 5 volume producers. So I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not exaggerating. I wouldn't be surprised, Jim, if you kind of implemented this portion into your model and you generate 100 key person policies in the month of March. I would not be surprised at all. 100 key person policies. Also, Jim, we did that reconciliation you asked for, and my staff was having trouble getting it to you. They tried to email it to 2 different of your emails, and it's not getting delivered. So I need to get you connected with our staff person to resolve that. Okay, so let's see here. Scott's asking a real good question. So yes, what would be ideal, Scott, is that we get the client between week 2 and 3, their first tranche of financing. And it would be ideal if that were enough to cover their refundable deposit, which is $2,500 if we split 50-50 with you, and then also enough to cover their key person policy, plus maybe to provide them extra working capital. Of course, the more funding, the better. We're all on board with that. It'll just come down to how credible they are and what they qualify for. But you're exactly right. That's one of the reasons why in sequence, the key person policy comes in week 3, while FTF comes in week 2. So the goal is to have their first tranche financing funded before you're writing their policy. And that makes it obviously even easier for them to pay annual premium up front. But I can tell you, it's not unusual for business insurance policies to be annualized premium. Even the coverage we have here in our physical office. Now, we lease our space. We don't own this building. I'm not misrepresenting that. But we have to have insurance coverage, and it's about $1,000 a year for contents and slip and fall and such. And it's an annual premium. It's not an option. Oh, I'd like to pay it monthly or quarterly or semi-annual. It's an annual premium. It's not unusual for business policies to be paid annually. All right, so Billy's asking. So Billy's not currently insurance licensed, and so unless you get really creative with an agent, which I'm not here to promote or condone, then you probably won't be paid off the key person policy because it's illegal, right? I can't fix that. But our agreement with you is that we're doing a 50-50 split with you and the joint venture partners of the refundable deposit, of the performance fee, of the key person policy. So that is split 50-50 with us, yes. It's just up to you. Do you want to accept your 50% or not, or participate in that? And that's based upon whatever setup you have on your end on the insurance side. Scott asked if they only qualify for 2,500 of the FTF, which some will. That's true. Some will only qualify for that. Do you wait to write the key man? No, you proceed with writing the policy. You still need to help them get that important element of their loan package together. But you're right, there may not be a pool of money from the FTF in some cases. That's correct. And that's a great question, Bernard. No. So if all they get approved for is our safety net financing, the 0% $2,500 loan, we do not bill them a performance fee for that. Okay, so let's move on down here. So I think we've covered the key person policies pretty well. If you have other questions, we'll take those here in a moment. Compliance department was real active. And again, our compliance department works just part-time. We don't have, or I guess we're fortunate, we're blessed. We don't have so many compliance issues that we need full-time 6-figure staff sitting around all day. So they work part-time 2 to 3 days a week in addressing those compliance issues. They use Calendly, so they have scheduled calls with clients. I know Friday was a real busy day for them. They do a customer service survey actually after the call to have the client give them a numerical ranking of how they think it went. So they're very customer oriented. And we had someone recently said, well, you just want everybody to go to compliance. No, we just want people to do what they promised to do. If they owe money, they need to pay their bills. If they're contracted and they're not participating, then they need to participate. That's all we're trying to do, is get people to engage and do the things that they promised to do. If we didn't have to have a compliance department, it would be even better. Just like in our society, what would happen if everyone followed the rules and we didn't have a police department? And I'm not all getting into this whole defunding the police, don't misinterpret, but yeah, I mean, if everybody just followed the rules, it'd be great. We wouldn't have to have police departments, and we wouldn't have to have jails, and we wouldn't have to have judges and courthouses. But unfortunately, sometimes people are deviants, and unfortunately, some of our clients don't pay their bills on time or don't comply. And so that's the function of the compliance department, to attempt to help them resolve that. And if not, then we let the judicial system decide that. There's no hard feelings, it's not personal, but then they can come to Wood County, Texas and talk to the judge about why they didn't pay their bill or why they're not performing. Okay, the last thing I wanted to hit with is maybe the most exciting one of them all. So sorry for leaving it until towards the end. But remember, there's different types of capital, and not all capital has to be paid back. And in some cases, for some clients, they're better suited for funding that does not have to be paid back. So debt, of course, can be revolving or installment, lines of credit, credit cards, so forth. But that's money that has to be paid back, right? That's the promise that the borrower is making. What we can do, though, is set up a capital raise that is either not completely dependent or not dependent at all on debt-based capital. And we've talked about that before, but I feel that some of you don't remember that or are not appreciating that. I'll give you an example from just yesterday. This is a real example. Stephanie's her real name. So Stephani and I were working on her capital raise strategy. And what we had on the table was $1 million capital raise, money that she wouldn't have to pay back. And she walked from it. She did not accept it, which was interesting. But, and that's again, up to each client. They do not have to take funding offers or go after a funding structure that they don't feel is in their best interest. Just keep in mind, not all funding has to be paid back. And just like Stephani left $1 million on the table yesterday around 11 a.m. Central, that is an option for clients. Okay, so let's get to your questions and comments. And again, this doesn't change the process. You still feed them into access to capital the same way. They still go through the same 4-week process. It's just we need to develop their loan package appropriately. And if it's not going to be a loan, then we have to make some subtle tweaks to how we're asking for capital, because we don't have to budget to pay it back. If they're not going to use debt, then we don't have to budget the expense of debt repayment. Okay, so let's get to your questions here. Yeah, so we have access to capital webinars, 10 a.m. Central, most Mondays through Fridays. It's a Zoom, and on the small business certification page, the IIMFL website is the link to that. Thank you, Jim. Dion asks, can he partner himself with someone that is not an insurance agent who is a joint venture partner to help write the key person policies and work out something? Absolutely. Yeah, but the real goal is for each joint venture partner to have a team, and that team includes people that are going out and helping develop business. And there's probably not many examples of a better professional type or category to have on your team than insurance agents, because they'll go out, they're usually very good they're extroverted, they're usually good at reaching out to prospects, and they may already have some prospects to bring to the table. And if you give them the opportunity to write the insurance policies, that's going to be great motivation. So it's less about connecting you to other joint venture partners than it is encouraging you to build the infrastructure for your joint venture to allow you to grow. Thank you, Dion. Billy's asking again about the state insurance license laws. So I don't know how to get around getting paid for insurance sales if you're not licensed. If you figure out something creative to work with an insurance agent, that's between you and them. but I believe that state law would say that you have to be licensed to be paid insurance premium. Certainly, if you're going to bring an insurance agent in under your JV partnership, then they need to know that there's a 50-50 split of that key person premium. Now, we don't split the other policies. The average client, we've talked about this before, the average insurance client is worth over $10,000 to an effective agent, because they're going to find other areas of need, other problems to solve, other perspectives of saving and growing money. And we don't share in that, but we do split the key person policy 50-50. So you would obviously want to let them know that, because you wouldn't be taking the 50% that's coming to us out of your pocket. It would be shared with the licensed agent. Okay, and so Quentin's asking a good question. So if they want to terminate their agreement, the access to capital agreement. So if Quentin's asking, if a client wants to terminate the access to capital agreement, they would just go back and look at the agreement, and that would outline what the financial penalty is. Because what we've done is we've promised to work with them to raise at least 100,000, and they've promised to work with us to raise at least 100,000 and pay a performance fee off of that. But all that's dictated in the agreement, of course. Right, the key person policy is a 50-50 split, but no further policies written are split. So it's a great deal. We can do the capital raises, the non-debt based capital raises many different ways. Scott? Marshall asked, and congratulations, Marshall, you got a number of new clients in your cohort starting today. So Marshall asked, the $9.99, does every customer have to pay that fee? And for credit boost, what is the, okay. So Marshall's asking about credit boost, not access to capital. And there's a $9.99 refundable deposit that we waive, and you'll see that in the agreement, as long as they execute the agreement within 2 days. So it's meant to be a motivation. Hey, by the way, there's normally $1,000 to get started, but if we get started today, we can waive that. So that's how that is structured. Marshall, let me know if that didn't answer your question. Robert says, when your people reach out to gain clients, is the client made aware of option 3.0 versus access to capital? Well, we have a bunch of different, we have over 5,000 affiliates. I had someone said I was a liar, that we don't have over 5,000 affiliates, but I could show you the list of them if you wanted to. But there's over 5,000 affiliates, and different affiliates have different ways of generating leads. Most of them are just focused on access to capital, not the Capital Ready Package 3.0, because the 3.0 requires the referral source to close the deal and collect the $2,500, where access to capital has no upfront cost. So that's what most people promote. Now we've got the Barrys of the world who's on the Zoom today, and Monique's and others that are more sophisticated, and they'll close the $2,500 up front. They'll collect the $2,500, and then we do the 50-50 split. But our rank and file lead generators are just generating leads into access to capital. John's asking about who the beneficiary is. So when a key person policy is written, typically the business is going to be the owner, and the business is going to be the owner of the policy, and the business is typically going to be the beneficiary. And of course, the insured is the key person. We won't know about who the collateral assignment will be linked to until we know who the lender is and the amount of the loan. But typically the business is the beneficiary. Thank you, John, for that. Scott, yeah, the goal is for our JV partners to average one new client a day, 30 to 40 a month. And there's certainly the opportunity to do so. We're not punishing people that don't do that. And we've got some JV partners that are on the Zoom right now that that greatly exceed that, and we have some that can't seem to bring a client in. I've got a couple that I don't know that they brought more than a handful in months. Some people just aren't good at marketing. Marshall asks, can you bring other people to come in and work under you? Sure. Yeah, that's the goal of the JV relationship, is for you to build a team, and that team's working under your umbrella, of course. Let's see here. Marshall asks, what is the amount on the credit boost trade lines? It varies from typically 2,500 to 10,000. Bernard's asking about the refundable deposit. Just as it states in the agreement, they receive their refundable deposit back after they've raised at least $100,000 and paid the performance fee on that. That's the trigger. All right, Marshall asks, is the loan on the credit boost actually a loan? There's different types of trade lines and different structures, so that's too generic of a question for me to help you with that specifically. Okay, so let's review here because we've ran long. So we had a variety of miscellaneous mentoring topics today. I think all very important and relevant based upon conversations that's occurring. We let you know that we do have all the clients assigned. If you check your email, you should have been copied or blind copied on the onboarding email of every client that you were assigned. And you should have also been forwarded the client's executed agreement. So these are not leads. These are clients that you've been assigned. You're paid $100 an hour to do the mentoring of orphan clients, and you write the key person policies if needed. Plus, you have a relationship with them now, so there's probably other asset protection needs that they have. We clarified that there are no prerequisites for access to capital, with the exception that it needs to be U.S. citizen, U.S. business, legal in nature, but I think that can be assumed. Seen really, really good success on FTF, getting everyone funded that is participating. We clarified that business credit building is included in access to capital, not an extra fee, and we start that once they've paid their refundable deposit. We clarified that it is the role of the JV partners to get these key person policies written, and either you're licensed or you get someone that's licensed to write those policies. We clarified that the compliance department is having good success and getting monies in and holding people accountable, explaining discrepancies. And I can give you an example. I have one client, she had a nice credit boost. We invoiced her and she's like, well, I can't pay that. Well, why did you sign up for credit boost if you can't pay for the results that you ask us to generate? Well, I won't have the money until later. Well, if you don't have the money until later, guess what's going to happen? You're going to have a late fee of $50 every day. That's insanity. You're going to pay more in late fees than you did in credit boost fees. And so it escalated. And so they drew up the citation to go to small claims court. And then she paid it over the weekend. But you know, all the compliance department's doing is just asking people to do what they said they would do. But it's amazing in today's society. Sometimes you have to prod people to get them to do what they said that they would do. And then lastly, we use the Stephani example that not all types of capital has to be paid back. In Stephani's case, she would have given up 49% ownership in her business, minority ownership, not majority. She would still be the president, CEO. She would still be in charge. She would still call the shots. But she would sell 49% of her business for $1 million, and she walked from that idea, which is fine. I'm not casting negative doubt. She probably feels that, and keep in mind, her business is pre-launch. It's not even generated $1 yet. So many people would argue, man, if you can get $1 million for an idea that you have in your head that's not even had $1 of revenue, take it. But Stephani knows how profitable her business is going to be, and she feels like it was too much to give up 49% for $1 million. And so while an equity-based capital raise is not the right fit for everyone, keep in mind that you don't have to have any of the 3 C's for an equity-based capital raise. You don't have to have cash flow, creditworthiness, or collateral. All right, and so let's just wrap it up with any other questions that you all have. So Robert asked, yeah, if you have a client in a different state, you get a non-resident license, but that's nearly free. It's usually like 35 bucks and easy. I would use Sircon, SIRCON, I guess, .com, and you can get a non-resident license often same day or within a day or two in just about every state. There's a few states it's a little more complicated, but most of them you can pop them out there pretty quickly. And let's see, last question here. Scott asked, do joint venture partners only split the key man? Well, yeah, it's split regardless of which carrier it's written with, right? That's because we're sharing with the joint venture partner half the refundable deposit, which they don't have to refund, sharing them half of the performance fees, and then the key person policy is part of what we're doing a 50-50 split on. Otherwise, it's kind of a one-way street. We're giving you half of all of our dollars, but oh no, we don't want to do that on the key person policy. All right, thanks everyone. Let's get after it. Let's try to get at least one deal in today, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.